a few months ago, I was listening quite intensely to Tony and Jim.
Yeah.
And at moments when the clarity is there, when the person is not present, it actually feels very relaxing and comforting.
Yeah.
And it's all, it's like, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But still, the vast majority of time there, the person is there. And if I take that to be the truth, then it resulted in maybe depressive feelings. So I realized that, and at a certain moment, the apparent conclusion was, okay, I'll just pretend whenever the clarity is not there, that I actually have a choice to do things. And that helps because, well, it seemingly helps. I'm less depressed, or not depressed, actually. It's interesting to see how it's almost schizophrenic, how I could be completely fine with everything, and then it could flip the total other way around.
Yeah.
So my question is, pretending to have control, does that have
help.
any effect on or not help? Like it hinders the process of it settling in fully.
I don't know the answer to these questions. I just can give my opinions, really, but I don't know the definite answer. You'll get some teachers that say yes, that will hinder, and some teachers that say no, it won't, and I don't really know. My intuitive response that comes out is that like radical non-duality, or neo-Advaita, I think it's often called, which I really love and I think is really beautiful. Like, it's so beautiful in the way that it expresses non-duality. So you can like listen to it, and it's almost like when I used to go and listen to neo-Advaita teachers, it was like it was on, what they were speaking about was on the tip of my tongue. It was like my whole body would vibrate with energy as they spoke about it. And there was something in me that just knew it was true. But also for me, it created deep depression as well. And my intuitive feeling towards that is the reason it creates depression is because the person takes that on board. So what often neo-Advaita teachers would say is, if you leave the room with this message, then you've completely misinterpreted it. So when the person believes that life is meaningless, when the person believes that it doesn't have choice, when the person believes that it can't do anything, then this is depression. These are the thought processes that lead to depression. But that's not actually what they mean. But it's so hard for the person to listen to stuff, for the thought processes and the character to listen to stuff and not embody what it listens to. In a way, it's not doing anything wrong. It's just trying to fulfill what you're trying to learn. You know, if you were learning mathematics, it will try its best to understand that and take that on board. Whereas non-duality is really different. So it's when you take on board non-duality, it creates depression in the person, because if the person believes it's meaningless, like the person, the body, then it means that it will have very little energy or momentum to do anything.
Yeah, what I almost noticed was that, as if there was the character with its arms crossed in front of his chest, like, I'm not participating, I don't exist. but that's of course participating.
Yeah, exactly. And that will actually, what happens when we go into these types of modes, that will actually more than likely have been a response that you'll have had as a child. So it's like, as a child, when your parents didn't do, I can't say that I'm right, I might not be right about this, but just as an example to other people, when your parents said you couldn't have something, or they told you off for something, or you didn't like what they said or something, then maybe your response, or one of your response was, then I'm not participating, then withdrawing. And that's, so most of the time, and I'm not saying this is what's happening for you, but most of the time when we hear this message, we then embody it into the character and the character's way of being. So it suits the character in a way, even though it doesn't on the ultimate level. Like it suits the character to then be like, well, I'm not going to participate. But then if you look at your life, you might notice that when your partner does something you don't like, then you have this energy of withdrawing and not wanting to participate. And you see that you begin to notice that everything that you hear externally is always going to be interpreted through the filter of your character. And non-duality is about going beyond the character. So it's not a character quality. And this is the hardest thing when expressing non-duality and when listening to non-duality, even though I can't express it any differently and they can't express it any differently and you can't hear it any differently on the ultimate level. Like it's very difficult to communicate these different levels of non-duality, if you want to call it levels, even though there is ultimately no level. When I say level, I mean when the person is interpreting it. So, and it does, they are related, non-duality and the person, because when you're identified with the person, everything will become exacerbated by that. So it will become bigger. So every pleasure that you want will become more important to you, and every pain that you avoid will become more painful for you. And that's what we call, or a lot of people would call, suffering, this identification with the person and the belief that pleasure is freedom and that pain is hell. I don't know if how that fits for you and how that resonates for you.
No, it does.
So what I normally find is that people that have got into the subject of non-duality, there's often they've got into it because life isn't working for them. And there could be many, many reasons why life isn't working for them. And it's understanding the injuries that have happened on the human level from life not working for them. So understanding that and acknowledging that and feeling the pains of that and becoming more conscious of it. And then at the same time, realizing that that's not who you are. It tends to be, if you just go for non-duality, then the seeking will stay in place because the pains that you're experiencing in life are strong, and so the seeking stays identified with that. As you begin to relax your personality structure and relax your issues with your life or with society, then the seeking dissipates, and then it tends to be, it's not more of a chance, but it's easier for non-duality to be heard. Like when you're suffering lots, like you can't hear how beautiful this moment is, or that this is freedom. Does that make sense, or is that sound...
No, absolutely, yeah, very clear.
So it's not, I would suggest, if you're resonating with like a Neodvita, like listen to it, but I would also suggest, working out what's going on the character level and what effects non-duality has on the character level. But when you're listening to non-duality, and when you're resonating with it, there is a meditation that's happening deeper than the character level. So I would always suggest working on the two. And the way that I like to work with the person is through the chakra system. Okay, I like that. But there's all different methods out there, and all of them seem to have validity because there is no truth. So there's so many things to heal or to understand what's happening for you on a personal level, in your stories and the way you see yourself.
Do you have a suggestion for what to look up for the chakra system you are referring to?
Yeah, on my website, I have like a page, a reference page, and I have some books there that I recommend on chakra system, and with all of it, you have to kind of ignore some of the stuff I find. Like some of it's very prescriptive, and some of it's
dogmatic, or
really dogmatic. But there are some gems in there, so there can be some real clarity from learning these things. And I keep meaning to update the reference page more. Like there's lots of great things that I recommend to people, but all different types of practices and therapies that to do simultaneously with listening to non-duality.
And at a certain moment, there was a choice for you to, when you have these talks, to at least to a certain extent go along with the concept of there being a person or a free will. Because when I listen to Jim, for instance, I have the feeling that there's no concession whatsoever to the existence of a separate self.
Yeah. Can you just ask that question again? The beginning part of it?
Yeah, so I watched a video of you from a long time ago. It was released not too long ago. Of I think the seminar was called "Who's Driving the Bus?"
Yeah.
And if I listen to more recent videos, then I see that you've steered a bit away from the harsh truth.
Yeah.
So that has to do with your own experience of it
creating
a depressive feeling inside.
So, but I think originally you said like the choice, the moment of choice. Yeah. What happened was, so I've been teaching for I think roughly around 10 years now, and I think that was maybe 3 or 4 years in that I began to change the way I spoke. And what happened was there were lots of different things that happened. So there was getting used to the energetic shift that happened. There was experiences that I had, and I couldn't quite put things together in my mind, with radical non-duality and some of my experiences. So there was a questioning then of the way I thought and the way that I spoke about it. There was a questioning, because I had been brought up for so many years in there is no I, and then there came a moment where I was it was like a deepening or a surrendering, where I was there is an I, there is an appearance of an I happening here in my experience. So on one level there is no I, and that's so beautiful and so expansive, but there is a character that comes and goes. There is this Lisa character, and it could be that I have different experience from Jim and Tony, and I'm totally open to saying that. And it could be they're more advanced. It could also be that they're less advanced. That would be impossible for me to tell. I can't tell. It was this questioning of that, and then also personal experiences in my life, trying to live with this really strong Neo Advaita and then have personal relationships with people. It just became more apparent that there is this appearance of an I, and that doesn't negate that there is also no I, there is also no person happening there. But lots of people can have lots of different judgments on that, and that's really down to them and the way that they feel about that change in the way that I speak. I've had lots of criticism and lots of praise for it. So it was a build-up of things, most things are, of questioning. I mean, when you have these awakenings, they're energetic, they're not mental, and they don't come with a manual. So you have to go with everything that you've learned to date. And I was very indoctrinated by there is no I of Neo-Advaita, and then also like Ramesh Bolsaka, that was no chooser. And that's really beautiful, and I love that teaching. But then there was a questioning and a growth that began to happen in this personality structure. And I feel like what began to happen was I began to step more into my own way of speaking. So before I was a bit more like it wasn't I was copying them. It wasn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like it was more like it was. I suppose there was an element of copying of what I'd heard before, because I didn't know how to express it. Like I didn't. It doesn't. It's not a personal thing. It's not like I'm choosing, but there isn't that you can only express with the knowledge that's currently in this body. I can't suddenly start expressing it in Japanese. Like I can't. Like step out of the experience of this body, like things happen in apparent cause and effect. So I don't know how clear that is. That's really complex to explain, but
no.
So then that began, and that was like a big relief for me, because to change the way I spoke, because firstly, I noticed with Neo-Advaita, when you express more Neo-Advaita, you attract more people with depressive tendencies. And it was a relief to be able to address that with them on the human level and advise them to go and seek help, or going to do therapies, or to go and help the personality structure. Whereas before, there had just been a not dealing with that and not looking at that. So that was also a relief, and it changed the audience. Like it changed the people that came and spoke to me. Like it changed the dynamics between me and them. Yeah. So, but I don't think that the word that Neo-Advaita is wrong. I think it's actually really beautiful. I don't think any way of speaking is right or wrong. I think it's all what's evolving and coming out, and it's and the most important part of it is that resonance, like that resonance with who you truly are beyond the person, and it can come out in all different forms and in all different contradictions. And it's not, I don't see any of it as right or wrong anymore. I think prior, when I was more into Neo-Advaita and expressing like that, I think I thought that was right, but now I just don't know anymore. It's like it just comes out and we see, and maybe they're more evolved than me, maybe I'm more evolved than them, maybe we're all not evolved at all, and there's aliens looking down on us laughing at our perspectives. Like we just don't know. So yeah.
It's beautiful that there's such a variety of perceptions available, and
it feels
for
a
our
lot
choosing.
Yeah, and that feels a lot softer and a lot more inclusive. But I know from my own memory, when I was expressing like the radical non-duality, it was really pure and honest, and as pure and honest as what I'm speaking now. Like it's just different. It just evolved. The Lisa character evolved, and therefore it changed the expression that came out.
Yeah. Thank you.
With pleasure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, nice. Nice to speak with you and to meet you. Thank you for your questions. I enjoyed answering them.
Same.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.